Hey everybody, Josh here, and today, you guessed it, I finally got my lazy ass to make another YouTube video, and what a great time it is to be alive as a Genshin player, because Eula has made her entrance into the scene, and what better way? And I think in a way that surprised a lot of people, myself included. Now, today I'm here to break her back-breaking ways down and really do a deep dive into what makes Eula such a promising character and how one should be going about building her and slotting her into her teams. Let's get into it. Eula is not just any old character that one can just fit in and expect huge results. Eula comes into Genshin as a main DPS unit, one that really shines in the front slot and deals with the majority of your damage. As most of you already know, Eula is a physical bruiser, meaning that she can take some damage as she's able to mitigate a bit with her extra skills passives and deal a truckload of damage to the enemies. First, let's look at her kit to see how she even functions to get that spine and those hips to throw it all the way back. For this tutorial, we're actually just going to be looking at C0 Eula. If I were to do another or an extension of the guide, I could really talk about the constellations. Realistically, for most of the player base, they will be playing with C0, but if you guys can, C2 will unlock a different attack pattern chain, which we'll get to later on in the video when we talk about Eula's mechanics. Eula's first skill is called Ice Tide Vortex, and much like characters such as Zhongli or Diona, there is a mechanic within the ability that actually splits the attack. Whether you tap or charge will not only give you different damage multiplier slash cooldowns, but also different effects as well. What we will call the tap variation is the easiest to activate and has quite the short cooldown. The tap or press variation of the skill would be a good old swing of the cryo-infused sword, which will grant Eula a stack of Grimheart. Grimheart will be stackable for a max of 3 times. However, if you're under level 70, I believe you're only allocated 2 stacks max due to the talent limitation. These Grimheart stacks will allow you to gain defense, but more importantly, resistance to interruption. Now, say with me, resistance to interruption. And you may be asking yourself, Josh, why the fuck are we talking about this? I only just learned how to make sure my Sands artifacts is attack main stat instead of defense percentage. And to those sweet children, I remind you, this is why we're here. Resistance to interruption is quite an underlooked mechanic in the game, especially since you can literally infuse yourself with 4 different types of shields. It's easy to think that just because you have a shield that you're not going to be thrown around like some person stuck in a giant hollow pinball. With shields and those defensive boosting abilities comes resistance to interruption, which not only provides you with stat buffs to mitigate damage, but also provides you the ability to withstand attacks from your enemies, so you can go all oonga boonga without having to worry about whatever the enemy tries, which ultimately increases your DPS as you're allowed to do literally everything you want. Next, Eula's hold ability on the Ice Tide Vortex will deal slightly more damage, but instead of granting Eula a stack of the Grimheart, it consumes all stacks and will decrease your opponent's physical and cryo resistance by up to 25%, but only if you have a stack of Grimheart to consume. You better make sure you have one of those icy thingies on top of your head or you're not getting jack. Now, let's move on to her ultimate, which ties very closely with her first skill. Glacial Illumination is basically a Goku Spirit Bomb. You collect the energy of all the fucking people in Mondstadt and Leah combined, and every time you attack, you gain a new stat called Lightfall, which will charge into her new transient pet, the Lightfall Sword. And boy, does it do a lot of damage. But only if you're able to use Eula mechanics properly. I need to stress that a lot there. Not only will Eula, when activating the ult, be able to charge a literal nuke, but by activating the ability, the cooldown on her first skill is reset, meaning you can activate the Ice Tide Vortex within the period of the 7 seconds that you'll be able to use to charge that lightful sword. Now, before we go into actual mechanics of Eula and how to apply her kit on the battlefield, let's talk about what to equip on the bitch, because it's honestly not as straightforward as you think. First, weapons. There are quite a few weapons that work quite well on Eula and for their own respective reasons. Starting with the 5 stars, obviously, the Song of Broken Pines will be her best in slot unless you're 5 Constellation Wolf's Gravestone. By which then I actually send you my condolences, because that only could mean you lost your 50/50s on getting the Staff of Homeless. The Broken Pines weapon is great for Eula because it not only provides attack bonuses and that beautiful physical attack percentage substat, but when you have 4 sigils or just more stacks of the weapon, you gain increased attack and attack speed, which will help Eula fit in more strikes during her ultimate to do even more damage. The other noteworthy 5-star weapons to have on Eula are the Wolf's Gravy Sword and, surprisingly, the Skyward Pride. The Skyward Pride, which is what I'm actually using to build for Eula, has the energy recharge substat, which gives a soft fix to some of Eula's energy charge problems. As much like Beto's ult, it takes 7 years to flip and charge. And for those who are more on a budget / free to play, you guys can look at options such as the Snow Tomb Star Silver, which, if you haven't already obtained it, you're in for the most fun 30 minutes to an hour of your life. The Serpent Spine is also a great option as it covers the other crit stat that isn't built into Eula. Oh yeah, did I also mention that when Eula levels up, she increases her crit damage? Insane. The Prototype Archaic is also going to be one of your best go-tos, and I've wanted to playtest or see people try out the Sacrificial Greatsword because I think it could be quite the gimmick for Eula, but we'll just have to wait and see. Now, for everyone's favorite part of the build, artifacts. Woo! Now, Eula's artifacts actually don't come too cookie cutter. Before she came out, most if not everyone in the community were boasting the 4 set of the Pale Flame, which by no means is her worst set, and honestly, if you're able to maintain the passive, it is her best set. However, most players who have playtested this watermelon breaking pair of thighs will understand that putting Eula on a 2-piece Pale Flame and 2-piece Bloodstained Chivalry is most likely going to be your go-to because it's just so consistent. If you're around AR 40 to 50, and mainly only are carrying a Gladiator set, don't worry, you're not going to die by slotting those in, but as soon as you can get your hands on those 2 other sets, take the chance to swap them out, as it has been calced that 25% physical damage increase is much more significant damage-wise than the 80% overall attack increase can provide from said Gladiator set. Finally, talents. Now, it's easy to just say, Josh, let's level them all up and triple crown the bitch, because she's our queen. And to that I say, you're actually not wrong. Almost. Having a good balance for Eula's kit is mostly preferred. However, if you're really on a budget build and can only spare resources for certain talents, as a main DPS user, I suggest Eula's first talent, the normal attack, and the third talent, the ultimate, to be prioritized. Just because the bonuses from the second talent or your first scale pale in comparison to the amount of damage you'll be dealing with their ults. Have fun farming those resistance books. Hey guys, this is actually one of 2 post edits after the recording that I wanted to make. I actually didn't really mention Eula's talents. I did mention the attack talents as it pertains to her normal, her first skill, her ultimate, but we never really talked about the other passives. One of her first passives is at level 70, which is Rolling Rhyme. Basically, it allows you to gain an extra stack of the Grimheart. And the Wellspring of Warlust is the other talent, which actually allows you to get that cooldown reset off of the first skill. So make sure that you guys are ascending your Eula to high enough levels in order to obtain those passive talents, as well as a more overworld passive, the aristocratic introspection. Um, Eula is able to double the amount of character talent materials that she crafts at a 10% clip. And, to have that sort of passive, it's almost like Xingqiu's, where it recycles some of your materials that you use for the talent materials. Now, to circle back to the mechanic, and I know you're wondering, Josh, this is a Claymore user? How hard could it be to tap my mobile screen and make those big pair of eyes swing my hefty sword? Uh, wrong, wrong. Eula is actually quite the complex character, and not only have we laid the groundwork for her playstyle to be complex with juggling her abilities alone, her attack chains are also quite intricate. Disclaimer, I only have seen these variations being playtested and have not truly done the full research myself. However, what I will be sharing is pretty trusted sources of information. So, let's start off with a blank Eula. No energy particles in her own. She's just standing there. First, you'll want to use the tap version of the first skill, which will allow you to gain a stack of Grim Heart, giving her that sweet resistance to interruption. Once you've been able to smack things or actually use support characters to help gain enough energy particles, it's now time to drop down the queue and explode anything in a literal 50-mile radius, 100-mile radius, okay? First, we must understand that we only have seconds to fit in as many attacks as we can. Any attack from Eula will add on to the Lightfall Sword, not only her normal attacks, but her first skill as well, and thus will help the attack scale even further beyond. Most cases, I do suggest building up and waiting for the full duration to get the most damage as you can. But there can also be more builds and ways to maximize damage in the future. But since if you do switch Eula out of the field before the 7 seconds are up, the sword will burst prematurely, but still do the due damage. Do the do. Do. Let's get into the nitty gritty of the attack chain. As per experts, and when I mean experts, I mean other Genshin content creators, performing the first, second, and third attack, canceling back into the first, second, and third hit will be your most optimal way to stack the normal attacks. I've seen the playtests of this, and it does give you the max amount of normal stacks within the time allotted. Oh yeah, and maybe it would be a good time to tell you that Eula has 2 swipes on her 3rd and her 5th swing of her default attack chain. So essentially, when you're using the 3rd strike, it strikes twice. So ultimately, when you're doing 1, 2, 3, canceling 1, 2, 3, you're stacking 8 total charges into the Lightfall Sword. Hey guys, we're back with the second, edit and post, and I actually did want to make a small, correction, to what I just said about, her attack change. So I actually tested it out a little bit, and Eula can actually fit in a tap, the normal attack chain, which I just described, and a hold attack, and finish off with the ult. So in total, actually, she's able to do a total of around 10 hits, or 10 stacks before she's able to explode the Icefall Sword. This strategy, or this attack chain, can be even more optimized by using characters like C2 Jean, by using Broken Pine's weapon in order to increase Eula's attack speed, which will give her even extra stacks in Icefall, increasing her scaling on the damage there. So that's another key point to keep in mind when you guys are tinkering around with how you're going to be able to stack as many stacks as you can in order to get greatest amount of damage out of Eula's ult. So now that we have most, if not all, the parts of Eula covered, and by covered I mean except those wide thighs of hers, let's slot her into some team compositions to see how we can best build units around her, because trust me, you want her as your main DPS user. Now, there have been several teams theory crafted to do crazy amount of damage. The first team will be dubbed the Superconduct team, which will usually consist of 2 Cryo and 2 Electro units. The other team will be called the Ice Age End of Dinosaurs, with 2 Cryo and 2 Geo units, one of them being Daddy Big Dong Zhang. Now, with Team Superconduct, there are several ways to go about it. Fischl and Beidou are amazing supports in their own right, just being able to provide that superconduct off the field, as well as give a little extra stat padding to the good old snake spine meeee. Yeah, the reason why Superconduct has been the most popular team is because of the accessibility of it and the elemental combination creating by having Cryo and Electro. Superconduct will shred physical resistance of your opponents. And with having 2 Electro characters, they're also able to drop electric particles more often, which I'll be completely honest in saying that I barely understand the energy system myself. I think 95% of us don't too, alright? Don't lie to me. But it's important that we understand that particles are, especially particle consumption from going onto the field and being absorbed by the character, is slow. This gives us the ability to use characters like Kea or Diona to use their skills and immediately switch to Eula, granting her more of the particles instead. This is a somewhat intermediate to advanced level technique and a mechanic that people will definitely be abusing to get more energy faster to charge that damn multiverse. The other team composition for Eula will be comprised of 2 Cryo again and 2 Geo, this time are mainly focusing on the resistance shredding. And although it's more for Geo users, this comp still gets it done. For budget comps of this team, you can go with Eula, Diona, Zhongli, and Traveler. If you do have Zhongli Albedo, those 2 pairing is, oh my goodness, just insanely good. A more intermediate or advanced level build of this team would consist of Eula, Rosaria, Zhongli, Albedo. As well as it's come to my attention that the fireworks comp that comprises of Beidou, Xingqiu, and Fischl to give you some crazy electro charge damage over time is actually crazy insane with Eula as well. But this comp is best utilized by more veteran or more well-developed accounts, as it does require some constellations within those aforementioned characters to be a little consistent. With that being said, I hope y'all enjoyed. Please leave a like if you were able to get something out of this tutorial. Comment down below your opinions about Eula, or if you think I really missed the mark on a suggestion that I brought up. Subscribe for more content down the road, and hit that big ol' bell notification to get notified when my videos go live. Well, until the next update, character guide, or whatever I kind of want to post. Stay happy, stay healthy, everybody. We'll see you next time. Josh out.